Hello Internet! This front-end design video is going to show you how easy it is to make a flashy web page like you've probably seen already, and it's perfect for people that have only the most basic rudimentary understanding of HTML, JavaScript, and CSS. I mean, if you even have any experience at all using this video is probably going to be a little bit too simple for you. Now, if HTML and JavaScript and CSS are just a complete mystery to you, it might do you some good to go back and just get a little bit of a brush up or refresher on that. But if you have only the most basic understanding of what these programs are used for, this is going to be a great entry point into getting yourself familiar with front-end design and just how easy it is to actually approach this. And so we're going to go ahead and start with our Visual Studio, which is a free download and an excellent way to do front-end design or any sort of web page work. I have the three obligatory files here, which is the index.html. This is the entry point for all web pages. The script.js, which is going to be our JavaScript file, and then the style.css, which is going to be the file that we have all of the styling for our HTML in. So we'll start in our index.html. This is going to be an HTML5, so we need to declare it using the doctype tag. It's going to be just like that, and one of the things that makes Visual Studio so wonderful is that it has the auto finish feature. We'll go ahead and put in our HTML tag like so, and inside the HTML tag we're going to put our header tag. So in the head we're going to include a little bit of meta information, so we'll put a couple of meta tags. The first meta tag, we're going to define the character set, which is going to be UTF-8, and this is going to make sure that all of the characters are encoded correctly. UTF-8 is just the best one to use generically while conserving the memory. So we'll set that equal to UTF-8. We'll close that tag up, and then we'll do a second meta tag, and in this one we're going to define the viewport. We're going to make sure that this one is going to be cross-functional for all different types of mobile devices, laptops, computers, basically anything that can access this web page. You want it to look nice, and you want it to be form-fitting for that particular screen size and device. The way that we can do that is by defining the name as viewport, like so, and then defining our content as being the width equal to the device width. And the initial scale we're going to set to 1. And we can go ahead and close that tag up. And that should be all of the header information that we need. Forgot my ending quotation mark there. All right. So that should be good. Actually, we're going to add a couple of more things in the header. We're going to add our link reference to the style sheet that we're going to be using. So we define that as being a style sheet. And the reference to that is going to be the name of our style sheet, which is style.css, like so. And lastly, we'll go ahead and put in the title, which is going to show up in the window frame. And we'll call this expanding cards. All right, so that should take care of everything in the header tag. After that, we're going to go ahead and define our body tag, like so. And in the body tag, let's go ahead and put a div. We're going to name this div as part of a class called full. This is going to be the complete outer div. And in that, we're going to put an h1 tag, which is going to be the main title, and we'll just call it take a look, like so. Now within this div tab, we're going to put another div tab, which is going to be our container tab. So we'll do another div and set the class equal to container, like so. And the reason that we're assigning these class names is so that we can manipulate them later with the JavaScript. So inside this div class that we're calling container, we're going to put some sub-div classes, and that's going to be, these are all going to be fairly identical. It's going to be a div. The name of this class is going to be called panel, and they're all going to be called panel, but we're going to set the first one to being active because we want one of them to actually be the active panel whenever the user logs onto the web page for the first time. The style is going to be a background image that we're actually going to source out in just a moment, so we're going to leave that blank. It's going to be a URL, and inside that URL is where we're going to put the link to the background image. We're going to get that from a free website in just a couple of minutes. and that's going to be that div. And inside that div, let's go ahead and put a title. We'll do an h3 title, and we'll just do nice title right there. All right, that's perfect. So these div classes, we'll do 5 of them. So let's go ahead and copy and paste 4 more. So we have 5 of these div classes. Excellent. We'll change up the titles a little bit just to make them, just so that they vary a little bit. So we'll do another title. Down here we'll do also a title. This can be title here too. And we'll call this one still a title. All right, perfect. So now let's clean this up a little bit. We have our main div, which has the main title of the web page. We have our sub div, which is going to be the container div that contains all of our panels. And then we actually need to only make the first panel active. And using JavaScript, we're going to switch one panel from the other as being active and the other one's being inactive. And that's how we're going to create that dynamic expanding card content. So it should look something like this. And of course, all of this code is going to be available in the GitHub link in the description. So don't fret if any of this is going a little bit too fast. Feel free to rewind the video and watch it again. Otherwise, we'll keep going here. So now let's go ahead and get some background images. We're going to source some of these from unsplash.com. And I've got the nature tab open up here. So I'm going to pick a couple of nice nature shots. So we'll jump in here and we're going to open image in new tab so we can get the exact link to that. I'm just going to copy and paste that. And back in the Visual Studio, we're going to put that within the single quotes of the brackets of our background image URL. Just paste that in there. And let's grab another couple of photos here. What else? Yeah, that one's kind of nice. We'll go ahead and open that into a new tab so we can get the exact link. Copy that. And we'll throw that into the second card URL. And we'll jump back in here. Let's see what else we can find here. And let's see. This one's pretty nice. We'll go ahead and open that one up into a new tab. We'll grab the link for that one. Throw that into the third URL. The nice thing about Unsplash is it is all royalty-free, copyright-free images, so you're free to use them as long as you give credit to the photographer or the artist. And let's see. This one's kind of nice. Obviously, don't want to spend too much time on here because it's only for demonstration purposes. So we'll grab the link to that one and paste it there. Now let's just get one more and we will be on our way. And let's do this one. This one's nice. Okay, and that takes care of that. We'll close all these down. Put that last image reference into the URL link, and that gives us everything we need, I believe, for our HTML, except for the last thing. Right before the closing body tag, we need to give a reference to the script that we're going to be using, which is going to be source of script.js right there. And it'll close it up automatically. One of the reasons we're going to put the reference to the scripting tag at the end of the content is so that it doesn't wait to execute the script before loading the content. That'll make it a little snappier. This content will actually come up first, and then it will start working on all of the scripting afterwards. So we'll save that up, and we're going to jump in here to our style.css. So in the style, this will be how we're going to actually make the HTML look the way that we want it to look. We're going to give it the transitions and the formatting that we're looking for. And so what we're going to do is we're going to actually import a particular font that we want. And one of the ways we can do that is by going to fonts.google.com, which I already have open right here, and picking up a nice font. And so there's quite a few here to choose from. I won't spend too much time because, again, it is only a demonstration. So why don't we grab this font right here. And I'm going to select this just most basic style, the Light 300 of the Open Sans Condensed. there's a link or an import option here. I'm going to grab the import option, and I'm going to copy and paste just the import. We don't need the style tags because it's going inside the style CSS. So we'll copy that import link right there, and we'll jump back in here, and we'll give that an import just like so. So once we've imported the font that we want, we'll have access to that. So now we're going to do a declaration for all of the content by using the asterisk character. And we want all of the content to be a box sizing of border box. And this is going to make it look nice and clean and make sure that the margins are perfect for all of the devices that it's showing on. And after that, we're going to get a little bit more specific. So we're going to do a body tag. We want all of the body content to be of the font family that we've declared right there, which is going to be the Open Sans Condensed. We'll put that in quotes. Like so. And we'll make that sans serif. Alright, we'll make the display of the body flex. And that will keep everything, that will make it a flex box display, which will keep everything nice and centered and keep the margins clean. We're going to align items in the center. We're going to justify content in the center, and this will do a both vertical and horizontal centering. We'll do height equal to 100% of whatever the viewport height is, and the viewport is going to be whichever device they're looking at. And we'll do overflow set to hidden because we don't want to have any of the scroll bars showing up. And we'll make sure to set all of our margins to 0 so that we can specify those margins as we want for each particular content. Now moving forward, we're going to do a definition of all of our container objects, which is going to be the div tag that we made. So we know that everything in the container, we want to have a flex display. And we'll set the width equal to 90% of whatever the viewport is. So we'll do 90 of the view width, and that'll leave a little bit of margin on the end. So of 100%, 90% of it is going to be taken up by our container. After that, we're going to define our panel content. The panel is going to have a background size of cover, and that's just going to do a complete cover of the background. So no matter how large the background image is, it's going to fully fit itself into whatever the div tag is. Then we'll do a background position. Of center. And we'll do background repeat set to no repeat because we don't want it to tile itself. Like so. Alright. After that, we're going to set the height equal to 80% of the viewport, just to give ourselves a nice little margin on the top and the bottom. So 80% view height right there. And we'll do a border radius to give our cards a nice little beveled edge, and we'll make it 50 pixels. This is something that you can play around with and make it something more to your liking, but that'll give it a nice little beveled edge. The color of the font we're going to set to just simply white, like so. And then the cursor will be set to pointer, and that'll give us a chance to, that'll give the user a chance to actually click on each one of the cards. We'll set the flex to 0.5 initially, and then once it's an active panel, we'll set it probably equal to 5 so that it fills in 1/5 of the screen. The margin we can set to 10 pixels so that it gives it a little bit of space in between it, in between each panel. And then we'll do the position is going to be relative, because we want each one of the cards to be we want each one of the cards to have a position relative to each other. And then we're going to give it a nice transition. The transition we'll give it is going to be of style flex. We're going to give it a 0.7 second transition and an ease in, and this will make it a nice smooth transition, like so. And that takes care of all of the basic panel. Now we need to define the panel of type H3, which is going to be our titles, because we want to make sure that the titles have a smooth transition along with the cards that are going to be expanding. So we'll do a font size of the titles equal to 24 pixels. We're going to position them absolutely. Because we want to make sure that they're not bouncing around whenever the panels are expanding or contracting. We'll put them down at the bottom with a 20 pixel margin and position them in the left side of the bottom, again with a 20 pixel margin. That'll be a nice positioning for the titles. Then we'll set the overall margin equal to 0 because we don't want any additional margin there. And the opacity, we're actually going to set the opacity to 0 when it's in a basic panel, when it's in a condensed panel, and then we'll change that with a transition to an opacity of 1 whenever it becomes the active panel. So that takes care of that. So now we can start to work on whichever is going to be our panel active. And this is going to be very simply so the basic panel active, we're going to have a flex of now 5. It's going to take up 1/5 of the screen, leaving the rest of the screen to the condensed panels. And then we're going to define the panel active for our H3, our titles in the panels. This is going to be where we're going to bring the opacity up to 1. And we don't want it to just simply pop in with an opacity of 1, so we're going to set a transition of this to opacity. We'll make it 0.3 seconds, so the transition ease in with a 0.4 second ease in. And that'll take care of the active panel titles right there. Now we're going to make a reference to the media that they're using to view this on, because in the off chance that the screen is too narrow, we want to make sure not to show all 5 of the cards that we've made. We'll only show maybe 2 or 3. So we're going to get the max width of whatever media device that they're viewing it on. We'll give it a max width restriction of 480 pixels, and anything below that, we're going to redefine our container as having a width of 100% of the viewport. So we have 100% view width right there. And that'll take care of that. Furthermore, we want to make sure that in this defined media of 480 pixel restriction, we also have a panel of nth of type 4 and panel of nth.type of 5. And this is going to grab the 4th and 5th card, and we're going to redefine those display to none. That way they don't show up under the restrictions of the screen width being less than 480 pixels. Alright, and that should take care of the reference to the media, and that actually wraps up the styling sheet, I believe, if we've got everything correct there. So that looks good. We'll go ahead and save that. Now we'll jump into the JavaScript file and we'll start working on the scripting. This is going to be probably the easiest part. We're going to define a constant called panels, and we're going to set that equal to the document. We're just going to query the document, so we'll do a query selector of all, everything that's going to be named panel that we've defined in the div tag. Like so. We need to use the dot operator to call that correctly. And then we're going to say that for panels that we've defined as being each one of the panel div tags, we're going to do a for each call. And so for each one of those panels, we're going to grab a panel out of there, and we'll use a functional lambda operator to do a quick function right here and say panel.add event listener. The event listener that we're going to add is going to be a click listener. And when it has the click listener, we're going to do an additional lambda function here. And this lambda function is going to show a function that we're going to define called remove active classes, like so. And after doing that, we also want it to do a panel.class list add whatever is going to be active, like so. And that will take care of that right there. Now, then after that, we need to define the function that we've said as being remove active classes. So we'll define down here a function. We'll name it remove active classes as we declared in the previous function. And in this function, we're simply going to grab the panels. We'll do a for each function. And for each one of the panel objects in there, using another lambda function, we will just do panel.classList, and we'll just remove it. We're going to remove it from being among the active panels. It'll simply be a panel at that point, like so. Alright, so if we've got everything correct there, I don't see any errors cropping up, so this should actually work the way that we've defined it. So we'll go ahead and do a open with live server to see what it looks like. So we have our title here in the main div. Right here we have the container div. We have this one as being set to an active panel, which gives it the 1/5 of the screen width size. There's the title, and now if we do a click event on this one, we have a nice smooth transition with the title down there in the bottom. Click event on this one does the exact same thing, a nice smooth transition with the title, and so forth and so on with all 5 of these elements. And so you got this nice flashy little web page that took very, very little time to create. It was actually quite simple. And you can see if we resize this container, I don't think I can get it all the way down to less than 480 pixels on this screen, but if you had it on a mobile device, you'd see that those last 2 would drop off. And so it does a nice flex box form-fitting design right there. And so there you are, something kind of quick and easy. Again, all of this code will be available on a GitHub link in the description. I encourage you to take a look at that, mess around with that, and see if you can make this look a little bit nicer. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing everyone back again in another video. Have a wonderful day.